Welcome to the final video in this series building this 2D top-down racer using Godot. So we left it on a bit of a cliffhanger actually at the end of the last one where we had some deviation and we'd hard-coded the deviation into the cars here. What I'd like to do for this video is get this actually adjusting properly according to a skill which we'll make for the computer cars, and then just give you a couple of little ideas of what you could do to adjust the behavior pretty simply actually, and you can then obviously tune things and add more features in as you like. So let's get this deviation working a little better than having a hard-coded value here. To do that, what we'll do is go to the top here, and I'm going to add a new variable here. It's not going to be a Boolean, it's going to be a float. And this is intended to be a value that's between 0 and 1, and this is going to be then the skill. Now, if I select the CPU car there and go to the inspector, we've got the skill here. We can actually force the value here, which, by the way, shouldn't be true. It should be, let's say, 1.0 by default. We can force this value actually to stay between 0 and 1 by using here an export range. I think it is. Yeah, export range. And we can say the min and the max here. And that will be forced to scroll or interpolate between that value, which is rather handy. And we're going to use this skill value now to allow adaptation of our deviation from the path. At the moment, our deviation is fixed to 0.9. So scrolling up to the top of the file, I'd like to add a couple of constants into here. And as with everything we're doing, and you've probably realized throughout development of this game, this is all stuff that if we wanted, we could add in as exports or even as variables and then use lerp to interpolate between them, or indeed use a curve or something like that. I'm simply, for brevity here, putting these in the way that we're doing now as constants. So I'm going to add a couple in here called deviation step min and deviation step max. You're going to see that we're going to update a current deviation from the path value that each car will have. When it updates, it's going to update by a certain step. And that step is going to be anything between 0.02 and 0.25. And what the step is going to be interpolated based on the skill. So if we have something at skill 0, it'll step in 0.25, so huge steps of waypoint deviation. And if it's skill 1, it'll step in steps of 0.02, which are very small steps of deviation. And its actual deviation value, which isn't going to be the 0.9 hard-coded, we're going to have a variable that's going to be updated each time it comes to a new waypoint. And the idea is we get a bit of drift. So you'll see with the really low skill cars that they'll end up drifting all over the place to one side of the racing line. The skilled cars should stick fairly close. Now, along with these steps, we also want to limit the amount of deviation as well. So I'll drop a couple of constants in for that. So we have deviation limit min and max. And again, this will be adjusted according to skill. So something with a skill 1 will never be allowed to have a deviation from the ideal line of more than 0.2. In fact, as I look at it, that's really high. So I'm going to do 0.1. A low-skilled car with a skill of 0 will be allowed to go up to 1 point of deviation away from the ideal line. So if you have something with really low skill, say 0.1, it's going to have a step probably of 0.22. So each waypoint, it's going to have a deviation from its current deviation value of 0.2, and it's going to be allowed to go all the way up to 0.9 something as well. So it's going to be in quite a bit of trouble. And what we'll do then is, in the variables here, let's add in a couple of variables. We're going to add the deviation step. That's going to be calculated in the ready uniquely by each car when they start. So each time its deviation changes, what is its step going to be? Then we'll also calculate its deviation limit as well. We'll do that also inside the ready. And finally, we'll also have its deviation weight as well. So its deviation weight is literally the current weight that it's using to deviate from the path. That's where we've got this hard-coded 0.9 at the moment. So we'll set these up then inside the ready. I'm going to go to distraction-free mode here, hoping that you can see something. So the deviation step, that's going to be equal a linear interpolation. And then we'll have between the deviation step min, the deviation step max, and we want to invert the skill here. And in fact, we'll be using this inversion of the skill quite a bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new var here called inverted skill. Then inside the ready, what we can do is immediately actually set this equal to 1.0 minus the skill. So we'll interpolate our deviation step using the inverted skills. So if we have a skill of 1, then the inverted will be 0, and we'll have the deviation step min, which is our lowest step in the deviation. Otherwise, if we've got terrible skill, then we'll have the max. Then we want to set up also our deviation limit. I'm going to copy and paste that here. So we'll set our deviation limit. And as before, we're going to have our deviation limit here. So our deviation limit min and our deviation limit max. So this is going to limit the amount of deviation that we can have, and this is going to be the step that we're going to adjust our deviation weight as we go through the game. So we can set up our deviation weight actually immediately here. So we can set that then to be a randef range. That'll be from minus our deviation limit to our deviation limit. Okay, so we should now have actually some kind of deviation weight that isn't the fixed 0.9, and I'm going to scroll down and replace this 0.9 with that here. Now what we want to do is each time we get a waypoint, we want to adjust our deviation weight. I'm going to get rid of this line here because we don't need it anymore. And then before we do anything with actually getting the waypoint target adjusted, let's adjust our path deviation weight. So we'll say that our deviation weight plus equals, and then we'll take a randef range. It's going to be minus our deviation step and plus our deviation step. So note here, we're not setting the value raw, otherwise we could have really wild swings which don't look very good. What we're doing here is walking in either one direction or the other, or indeed backwards and forwards a little bit, but always using this step, which will be small for high skill and big for low skill. And now we've done that, what we can do is also clamp the value. So we'll say that's equal to, and then we want to clamp F, our deviation weight, and then we can use here our minus deviation limit and our plus deviation limit. And what I'd like to do actually here temporarily, I think it might be worth actually just printing this out. So we'll do a percentage D, which is the car number, and then we can do a percentage 0.2F, and that's then the deviation for that particular car. So we'll do a percentage on here and a list, then we'll take the car number and the deviation weight. And that deviation weight is going to be used then inside the target adjusted. And what we should see now is that a car will sort of have less and more deviation as things go on. I want to double check that everything's okay there because we've done quite a lot. So we have the step, the limit, the weight here. So setting up the step, that looks all okay to me. Also the weight here, I think that should be all right. So I'm going to come out of distraction free mode, go to Monaco. We have our CPU car and we have our skill at the top here now. What I'd like to do is put this skill actually down quite low, around 0.3. And then before running this, and I'm telling a lie here actually because I did run it and I got annoyed, there's still this print of the deviation in the waypoint here. So I'm going to get rid of that and now run the application and press S to start. And you'll see now as we go through the waypoints, we get deviations being updated all the time. And the car itself is now having quite a variable deviation from the racing line. So it's not always sticking on the racing line. It hasn't crashed yet, which is good. Yeah, but it's definitely not perfect with the way it's driving around there, which is quite nice, I think. And we're really getting this sort of walking deviation here as well. So I'll press F8 to close that down and close down the output. Go back into the CPU car script. Now we had a skill of 0.3 there, and I was just checking the output. Okay, we got limited. I thought for a moment there we had a skill that was higher than 0.3 and we'd gone over, but you can see here it actually got capped at the 0.73 here, which is what I was looking for. Cool. So now what I'd like to do is flip the deviation now and again. So you may have noticed when it was driving around, it was sticking obviously to a certain side of the track where the deviation was. And I think that leads sometimes to a little bit of samey gameplay. So you end up with the cars driving round and round on the same side of the racing line, particularly the lower skilled ones. So what we're going to do this is really simple actually. What we'll do on the CPU car here is add a new node. We'll add a timer. And I'll change the name of this to deviation timer. And then we'll leave that to wait time of 1 second and we'll auto start this and we don't want it to be one shot. Then we can go to the node, double click on the timeout and connect this into the CPU car. So down the bottom here, what we're going to do every second is depending on the skill that we have, we're basically going to flip the current path deviation. So if the deviation weight is plus 0.8, it's going to become minus 0.8, which is going to cause, especially in the case of a lower skilled car, a real sort of crisscross on the path, but it's not going to happen all of the time. We're going to restrict it a little bit. So what we'll say then, we'll say that if a randef value, if that is less than the inverted skill, so if we're higher skilled, this value is going to be very low, so it's less likely, then we'll take the deviation weight, and we'll set that equal to minus the deviation weight. And what we can also do here is actually print this out as well. I'm going to scroll up to this print line here to be a little bit lazy here. And I'll call this deviation adjust. Just if we see it in the printout, then we know that it's happening there. And I'll put this arrow here as well so it's clear. And this should cause a car to swing, actually, when we actually get the deviation less than the skill. So I'll select the track, select the CPU car, go to the inspector, 0.3 skill. Let's drop this actually to 0.2. 0.1 tends to be a little bit wild, but I'm going to run this. And have I broken anything there or not? We're about to find out. It is doing the deviation adjusts. So they are working, actually. You can see here, and it's starting out at a really horrible deviation. So let's start it then and see what happens. Oh, there we go. We could see the swing happen there. We got another swing and it crashed. That's brilliant. That's actually exactly the effect that we want with the lower skilled cars. We want them looking a little bit silly on the track. Of course, we know how it's programmed because we've programmed it. But to somebody who's never or hasn't been involved in the programming, to them it's just a really low skilled car behaving a bit oddly, which is fully understandable. I think that already adds a lot to the game. So I'll press F8 to close that down, close down the output. One final thing I'd like to do with the AI of the car, because it's already, once you've tuned it, pretty good, is I'd like to actually add a minimum and a maximum steer reaction. So for the steer reaction, we're going to go down to a value of 5, which is really low. And I'll set that to min. And then down here somewhere, we do have a steer reaction, which at the moment is being set to the steer reaction max, okay, by default, which is good. But we'll linear interpolate this according to the skills. We'll take our steer reaction is equal to, and then we can linear interpolate, and we'll take the steer reaction min and the steer reaction max. and then our skill. And I'll go to distraction-free mode so you can see that again. So essentially saying the lower the skill, the lower the steer reaction. So 0.1 skill is going to be really bad the way we're going here. Hopefully it's able to get around the corners. The higher the skill, the better the steering reaction. So if we run the game again here and press with a heavy heart S for this poor car, what's going to happen to it now? It's not too bad. It's still getting round. It does have a bit of a delay on the steering though, at least it looks like to me. Anyway, that is pretty good. Wowzers, it really crashed heavily there. That's going, so this is good. It is low skill, so it should do this, but this is actually pretty good. I like the effect here. This is nice. Cool. Okay, so I'll press F8 to close that down. Close down the outputs, come out of distraction-free mode. And then to finish off, the last thing I'd like to do is just deal with this target speed. At the moment we have the max bottom speed limit and the max top speed limit. And those are coming from the export here, where we've got a max top speed and a min top speed limit. And we've also got the bottom speed limits as well. So as you've probably guessed, what we can do here also is we can interpolate these values as well to get a value. But what we're going to do is we're going to continually update those when this timer fires out so that we get a kind of changing max speed of the cars. I have to say here, this is slightly overkill for this because you don't really notice it very well, but nevertheless, we might as well put this in as well, seeing as these have been added at the top here. So I'm going to add in an allowed max speed and allowed minimum speed, which are both floats at 0.0 to start with. And then we'll invoke a function. We'll put a function actually here. So we'll do a new function called update speeds. And then we can set here then that our allowed max speed is going to be equal to, and we'll do randef range. And I've already forgotten the names of what we've got up here. So what do we have? That was the max speed, wasn't it? So the max and min top speed limit. That's the one. I'll also go distraction free. So I want to go between the min top speed limit. Where are you? Min top speed limits and the max top speed limit. Then we can do this also for the allowed minimum speed as well. So the allowed minimum speed then, we want to go to the min bottom speed limit and then also the max bottom speed limit. And then we can invoke our update speeds actually directly inside the ready here. And then if we look at this, okay, so we need to update the target speed as well, where we've got our max lower speed. So we'll do allowed min speed here and allowed max speed here. And then finally, last but not least, we can take the update speeds and we can drop that down into here. And we might as well do that every single timeout. Why not? So I'm going to run the application then, and what we should see here is, do we see, you probably won't notice this very much actually, but there will be some variation in the speed, which depending on how you set things up may or may not be important. Now, one thing I do want to point out while this is going round is once you start doing testing of the different settings and variations and things, you can get some obscure bugs, like they'll circle round and round and round the same waypoint. If you find that happening, that is more than likely due to the steer strength. Let me go up to the top here. So I've actually changed this. I think we had this at 5. I've been messing around between videos and put this back up to 6 because at 5 it was simply too low, and at high speed the lower skilled cars couldn't always turn to a waypoint if they were asked to deviate by a certain amount. So when you're implementing your AI in your own games and your own different ways of things behaving, it's a good idea to really thoroughly test these out. Speaking of which, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go away, stop the recording. I'll be right back in a second for you because it'll simply be faded out and back in. But I'm going to bring the other tracks to life, add some CPU cars in. I'm actually not going to add a player in at all. I'm going to leave the CPU cars on their own, set some different values on the different tracks and see how they're behaving. So I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm back after a good half hour of messing around with settings and things like that. And I've just paused a race actually here. It's nearly over. It's a 20-lap race on the Monza track. And somebody's just crashed. Fred's very low skill. It's the lowest skill of them all. Is actually always stuck on that particular corner. In general, the game has worked actually surprisingly well, I have to say. Usually games, you don't realize, but you have to do a lot of playtesting and tuning of values to get something playable usually. This one's actually not been too bad. I would spend quite a bit of time working on it, tuning the values, but the general gist of what the cars are doing seems to be okay. Certainly they're following their skill levels, so the higher skill levels win the races. The lower skills like Fred here definitely do not. There was one issue I did notice though, and you may have noticed in your own testing, that is when they hit an oil slick, they can end up spinning round and round a waypoint. The reason for that is because if they come out of the spin right next to their target waypoint, they try to turn towards it but can't with their speed and their steering strength, so end up just spinning in a circle. The other thing I struggled with was knowing who is who on the UI, and you'll notice that I've actually added the textures in here. I will show you right now how to do that, don't worry. So I'm going to unpause this and see if Fred can actually get away from this corner. There's Tigger also coming in and spinning. He will eventually, yeah, there we go. Fred's back. Oh, he's hitting oil slick. Poor old Fred. He's back on the run. Interesting, this one, I think. Oh, yeah, number 1 and 2, Maisie and Flossie, are having a real battle in this 20-lap race here. What I would change in this for sure is the impact of the oil slicks. It's too strong, there's too many, they're too wide, and maybe even put some avoidance into the AI for the oil slicks as well, because they're basically deciding the races, although it looks here like Maisie actually might just come around and win this one, which is good because Maisie is the highest skilled. And then we get the leaderboard as well, which is pretty cool. So Maisie wins, Flossie second, just about to complete her 20th lap. And we can see actually from the lap times as well that it goes pretty well in skill order. I think the speeds I kept more or less the same for all of them. It was just the skill that I set. Anyway, to summarize, there was one problem, which was the oil slick spinning and going round and round waypoints. So I'm going to close that down. And then what I can do is show you what I did about that. So it was quite simple. In the slip done, I just set the velocity to 0 so that they have to start from 0 velocity, which enables them to turn really sharply towards whatever their waypoint is. And the other thing I did when I was playing around as well, if I go to CPU car, was I really upped the steering reactions a bit as well. They were a little bit too low and it made them a bit sluggish, and now and again some weird things happened with the waypoints, so I did that as well. And the other thing I did whilst we're talking about other things was if I go to, I think it's Monza actually I have at the moment, I actually upped the space a little bit between the waypoints as well. They were all a bit too close and that caused some weird issues. And when I opened them out a bit, it was much better. Other than that, there wasn't really much to do in terms of adjustments. It worked really well out of the box. However, you're probably not interested in that. You're probably wanting to know how we get this texture on the UI. So I'm going to go to the car UI here and show you what I did to this. So what I did was add an HBox container as a child of the car UI, which you can see here. And then I dragged the name label as a child of the HBox container. So the car UI is a VBox container, so we have everything vertically aligned here. And the first item is no longer the name label, it's the HBox container containing the name label. And then we had the lat label and then the last label. Then I added a texture rect into here, which is the car texture. And on the right-hand side, I set that to ignore size and keep aspect. And then in the layout, in the container sizing, sorry, not in the container sizing, in the layout, gave it a custom minimum size of 32 by 32. So it's got that fixed size that you can see here. And that sized it about right, I think. And then the HBox container itself, I selected the root node and put the separation here at 8 pixels, which seemed okay. Then there was a bit to change in the code, but not much, because luckily for us, the car type already has the texture on it. So the first thing to change actually was the path to the name label, because that's now a child of the HBox container. And then I dragged a reference to the car texture in here as well. And then last but not least, in the update values, a one-liner here to set the car texture.texture equal to the car.texture. And that was it. So very little to do there to have the car UI actually updating itself with the car's texture, which made things, I thought, a lot easier to see. And that brings us rather sadly to the end of the series. I hope you've enjoyed this series. I hope you've managed to learn a little bit about 2D game development with Godot. There's much, much more, of course, that we've managed to cover during this series. Nevertheless, I hope you had some fun with the insights and the details that we've gone into. There'll be plenty more coming on the channel. The Discord link is in the video description. I really appreciate your feedback, your interaction. I always love discussing games and helping people out as well with the issues in their games. So feel free always to get in touch if you want to. Otherwise, thanks very much again. I really enjoyed going through this with you and I look forward to seeing you in a future series.